With the improvements made on your mobile phone over the last few years, for your video and photo taking, in regards to image stabilization, gimbals have sort of taken a step back. Before it was really, really important if you wanted to get a good recording of a video. But nowadays, like me, using my Pixel 8 Pro, just holding it in my hand and walking around, you can get really good shots without a gimbal. So yes, for the longest time, I was of the opinion that gimbals were dead. Until today. A company called XbotGo AI reached out and wanted me to test out their new gimbal, or AI gimbal. And honestly, I thought it was going to be another AI thing that didn't really do anything. But having used it for a long time, over a month now, and playing with it and trying out different features, I'm of the opinion now that gimbals are not dead, and yes, they have returned. Now in the box, you get the gimbal, obviously. You also get a really nice pouch, which I really like. You also get a charging cable, and then you also get a little mini tripod, which allows you to put the gimbal on a table or something so you don't have to hold it all the time. Pretty good. Now design-wise, I'm actually really impressed. The way it folds and becomes really compact is really good, and the way that it folds doesn't really give it much room to move around. So when you throw it in your bag, put it in the pouch and then throw it in your bag, I've used it for quite a while. I haven't had any issues since. Now there are a few other accessories that you can also get on top of the gimbal. You can buy the T1 tripod, which they sent over as well, and I've tested it. I actually really like it, and I'm going to use it for other things, not just for the gimbal as well. You also get an RC, or a real remote, that allows you to control the app. You don't have to go all the way to the phone. You can do it wirelessly, which is great. They didn't send that over, but it was fine. I was able to test it out. But yes, you can get that as well, and prices do vary, which we'll talk about later on. Now yes, like I said, at first I was really hesitant. I didn't think that it was going to do anything more than what my phone could do. But like I said, it does have a few AI tracking features, and I was pretty impressed overall. Now, first one, it has an auto tracking feature where it can just track someone moving up and down. For the most part, it did really well. Now, one thing to note though, if you're like me and you thought you could use it to track maybe your pet, or like my dog, it doesn't have pet tracking features right now, but the great thing about AI is that you could always have it later. So yeah, I brought my dog out, we went to a dog park, and we just decided to test it out. For the most part, it did really well. It was able to follow me throughout the time. It wasn't tracking my dog, if you're wondering. It was probably tracking me, and my dog was with me. However, when I ran a lot quicker and I ran to the side, or at least as quick as I possibly could, it sort of lost me and it wasn't able to find me. Even though the gimbal has a really wide range, it seems to sort of limit itself to a certain degree, and the minute I went off of that, it stopped tracking me. But the good thing is, once I came back into frame, it started following me again almost instantaneously. Now, one thing to note though, it doesn't support the AI tracking feature if you put the camera on portrait mode. The gimbal does support it, and you can actually switch between portrait and landscape when you film, but when you have it on portrait mode, unfortunately the AI tracking features don't work. Now, as good as the auto tracking features are, it was actually mostly designed for sports and recording sports events. And I think that's a really good idea and a really cool way to get gimbals up to date, because like I said, image stabilization on most phones are actually already pretty good. So of course I am gonna test it, and try and record some games and people playing sports. And this is where I got my major hiccup. I actually reached out and I wanted to film like actual sporting events. So I reached out to a few sporting teams here in Calgary, and tried to get permission, or like press level permission, where I could go to a specific place and film. Now, the reason for that is that I don't want to set up near the spectators or where the people are, watching the game. And have to set up the tripod and block a lot of people, and who knows, I might get complaints and asked to leave and all that, so I didn't want that to happen. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of them either didn't respond to me or said that they couldn't give me permission to go to the press area to shoot, so that was a no. So the other option was, maybe I can just go and record people playing sports, but it's the public playing sports. I don't want to go there and just randomly film like some kind of weirdo and then get arrested. So yeah, it took me a while to try and find the right way to test out the sporting features, but luckily some of my friends actually got together and they were playing a bit of street basketball. And actually the app has quite a few different spots that you can record, and you have to choose the right spot when you record, because that's how the AI knows where to film and where to pan and all that. So luckily there was a basketball feature. I was a little worried because street basketball is sort of half court, right? So I was a little worried that it wouldn't be able to film it right. but actually it did a really good job. Now first up, the tripod, the T1 tripod, setting it up was super easy. You just sort of loosen it and then you pull out the legs. I really like it. It is actually one of the quickest to set up and tear down compared to my other tripod, so I'm going to use that a lot. But yeah, I set it up and then I put the gimbal on top. I got everything set up in like under 5 minutes, really good. And then I opened up the app, chose the spot that I want, and then I started filming. Now it wasn't without some issues at the start. Now first up, when I was setting up and then I started recording, as usual, people who play street basketball or b-ball, when they were playing at the start, before they start the actual game, there'll be a few basketballs that they'll be using to throw and shoot some hoops. Now what I realized was the camera wasn't tracking anything, and I think that's because there were quite a few basketballs on the court, so the camera or the AI was just confused and didn't know what to record, so it just kind of stayed in that area. However, once I realized that was the case and I asked them to play an actual game and there was only one basketball, it actually did a really good job. It started tracking it, and it followed. It also did a bit of a tilt as well, so it's not just left and right, it does go up and down quite a bit. And it was really responsive. Now what I thought was really cool was that we had a few different types of basketballs. One, your regular orange one, and then one that was white. And I told them to use the white ball for a while just to see if it would confuse the AI, and it didn't. As long as it recognized that it was a ball, it was tracking it, which was great. So yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't test all the different modes. It was just the auto tracking mode and in basketball mode. But I think it did a good job overall, and yeah, it does what it says in the box. So is there anything I don't like about it? The gimbal itself, I think is fantastic. It's got a good battery on it. I used it the whole day in the hot sun. No issues whatsoever. It's built well, built really solid. Same for the T1 tripod. I love the tripod actually. And like I said, it's going to be my daily driver. Well, the only thing is, yes, I would love a pet feature where it would follow your pet around. And I hope that's something that can be added on later. The other thing is, unfortunately, no matter how good your phone is and no matter what resolution your phone can put out, it only records up to 1080p. And yes, that's a little unfortunate. I did reach out to XbotGo to ask, if there's a chance of that being upgraded in the future, and they said yes, maybe, but right now shooting at 4K does heat up the phone quite a bit, so to be safe, they didn't want to do that. But I have to say, for the most part, using that app to record video at 1080p, it was almost identical or pretty much identical to shooting 1080p on the native camera app on my Google Pixel 8 Pro, so that's great. All right, so let's talk about the price. And yes, it's not a super cheap device, but I do think it's worth the money. So you can get the gimbal alone, which comes with everything in the box, including the mini tripod with the legs, for about $290 US, and then it goes up all the way to about 600 USD if you want the gimbal plus the tripod, and even plus the remote control as well. All of the added in can come up to quite a fair bit. So yeah, I will admit it's designed for a very niche use case or very niche market. But there are a few scenarios. If you need to film something and you want something to sort of track you while you're moving around, this is a gimbal for you. If you're a parent and you go and watch your kids' games and you always film it, this is great. You don't have to keep holding your camera all the time. You can just set it up and let it do its thing. So yes, with the XbotGo AI Gimbal, XbotGo really has brought gimbals back to the modern era and made it useful. Alright, so that about wraps up my review of the XbotGo AI Sports Gimbal. Now, if you like this video, you know what to do, and I would love it if you were subscribed to our channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications on our next video. I'm JP, and I'll see you real soon.